The morning sun filtered through the dusty windows of Unity Savings Bank, casting a warm glow over the small office space. The rhythmic tapping of keyboards and low hum of printers filled the air. It was a normal Monday for Patrick Ndlovu, a 52-year-old branch manager who had worked at the bank for over 25 years. Patrick was a man of routine. He arrived at 7:30 a.m. sharp every day, drank his strong black coffee while reviewing reports, and made sure everything ran smoothly before customers arrived. But beneath that calm, professional exterior, Patrick carried a burden that gnawed at him daily, a wound that never healed. That wound was his only son, Tund. Patrick had once been a proud father. He had big dreams for Tund, who was sharp, ambitious, and full of promise. From a young age, Tund excelled academically. Patrick worked extra hours, sacrificed family vacations, and even sold a piece of inherited land just to send his son to the best private schools in Lagos. His ultimate dream was to see Tund become a lawyer or doctor, someone who would bring honor to the family name. But those dreams began to crumble when Tund reached his late teens. He started hanging out with friends Patrick disapproved of. He skipped classes, got into fights, and, worst of all, defied Patrick's authority at every turn. Their arguments grew more heated, until one night, it all came to a breaking point. It was raining heavily that night. Patrick remembered standing in the living room, his shirt drenched from chasing Tund down after hearing rumors that he'd been involved in a local scam. "You will not ruin this family's name." Patrick's voice shook with fury. "You don't understand me, Dad." Tund shot back, equally furious, his eyes red with anger. "What's there to understand? I work day and night to give you a future, and this is how you repay me? By running with criminals?" Tund clenched his fists. "You think money fixes everything. You never listened to me. You just wanted to control me. Well, guess what? I'm done letting you control my life." The words sliced through Patrick's heart. "Get out!" Patrick roared, pointing to the door. "Get out of my house, Tund. As far as I'm concerned, you are dead to me." Tund's jaw tightened, and without another word, he stormed out into the rain. That was the last time Patrick saw him. Years passed. Tund never called, never wrote. Patrick heard rumors, whispers that Tund had left the country, that he'd been involved in shady deals, or maybe that he'd died somewhere far away. Patrick buried himself in his work, trying to forget the pain. His wife, Evelyn, never forgave him for how he handled that night. She begged him to reach out, but Patrick was stubborn. "He made his choice," Patrick would say coldly. "I will not chase after someone who spat in my face." But deep down, guilt gnawed at him. Sometimes he would catch Evelyn crying quietly in the kitchen, clutching an old photo of Tund. Patrick would retreat to his study, pour himself a glass of whiskey, and stare blankly at the wall, haunted by memories of his son's laughter and the boy who used to look up to him with wide, admiring eyes. On this particular Monday morning, Patrick had no idea his entire life was about to change. The regional bank director, Mr. Adewale, called a surprise meeting. "Patrick," he said over the phone, "come to the main conference room immediately. There's someone you need to meet." Confused, Patrick straightened his tie and walked briskly to the room. The door swung open, and inside sat several executives. At the head of the table was a young man in a tailored navy blue suit, exuding confidence and authority. His back was turned to Patrick at first. When the man turned around, Patrick's world stopped. It was Tund. Patrick's heart slammed against his chest. His mouth went dry. "Meet your new regional director," Mr. Adewale announced proudly. "This young man has been transferred from our international branch. He'll be overseeing all operations in this district." Tund smiled politely at the room, his eyes sweeping over the faces of the staff. When his gaze landed on Patrick, there was the faintest flicker of recognition, quickly masked by a cold, professional demeanor. Patrick couldn't breathe. His son, the boy he'd cast out, the one he'd declared dead, was now his boss. Mr. Ndlovu, Tund said smoothly, his tone completely businesslike, I look forward to working with you. Patrick's lips trembled. Tund, my son. The room went silent. A few staff members glanced at each other awkwardly. Tund's expression didn't change. I'm afraid you must be mistaken, sir. This is a workplace. Please address me by my title. Patrick felt as though the ground had been ripped from beneath his feet. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Patrick sat at his desk, barely able to focus. Memories of Tund as a little boy came flooding back, his first day at school, his laughter as they played football in the yard, the nights Patrick read him bedtime stories. And now here he was, a powerful, polished man who acted as though his own father was a stranger. Patrick went home that evening in silence. Evelyn greeted him at the door, her face lighting up with hope. Did you have a good day at work? She asked, drying her hands on a towel. Patrick stared at her, his eyes brimming with tears. Evelyn, he whispered, his voice breaking, I saw him. I saw our son today. Evelyn dropped the towel, her hands trembling. What do you mean? Tund? Where? At the bank, Patrick said hoarsely. He's my new boss. Evelyn gasped, covering her mouth. Tears welled up in her eyes. Oh, Patrick. That means he's alive, he's safe. But Patrick shook his head. No. He looked at me like I was nothing. Like I didn't exist. Evelyn grabbed his shoulders. Then you must fix this. Patrick, you must make it right. Apologize. Beg if you have to. Don't let pride destroy what little chance you have left. The next day, Patrick tried to approach Tund during lunch break. Tund, please, he began softly, his voice shaking, I need to talk to you. Just 5 minutes. Tund glanced at him coolly. We have nothing to discuss, Mr. Ndlovu. If you have a work-related matter, send me an email. Patrick's chest ached. You're my son. Son? Tund's voice sharpened, his calm facade cracking slightly. You disowned me, remember? You told me I was dead to you. Patrick winced. The words echoed like a curse. I was young and angry, Patrick pleaded. I didn't mean it. Please, let me explain. Tund stared at him for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away, leaving Patrick standing alone in the hallway. That evening, Evelyn waited anxiously for news. Patrick sank into a chair, exhausted. He hates me, Patrick whispered. He won't even listen. Evelyn took his hand. You have to keep trying. Show him that you've changed. Show him that his father isn't the same man who threw him out. Patrick nodded weakly. But deep down, he feared it was too late. The following week, a critical financial audit was scheduled. The entire branch was tense, knowing the auditors would scrutinize every detail. Patrick worked tirelessly to ensure everything was perfect, but on the morning of the audit, disaster struck. A missing file, a crucial document, threatened to derail the entire process. Panic rippled through the staff. Patrick's mind raced. If they failed the audit, the branch could face massive penalties, and he could lose his job. As chaos erupted, Tund appeared, calm and commanding. Everyone, listen to me, he said firmly. We will find the file. No one leaves until we do. Hours later, the file was discovered, misfiled in another department. Relief washed over the team. But Tund didn't celebrate. Instead, he turned to Patrick. You're supposed to be the manager. How could you let something like this happen? Patrick's heart sank. In front of the entire staff, his son humiliated him with a cold, cutting reprimand. It was then Patrick realized the truth. Tund wasn't just hurt. He was punishing him. As the day ended, Patrick lingered in his office, staring out the window at the bustling city below. He whispered to himself, voice trembling, "God, please, give me one last chance to make things right." The next morning, Patrick arrived early. He sat at his desk, clutching a letter he'd written to Tund. It was heartfelt and raw, filled with apologies and memories. When Tund entered, Patrick stood nervously. "Please, just read this," he begged, holding out the envelope. Tund stared at it for a long moment before reluctantly taking it. He opened it, scanning the words silently. As he read, his jaw tightened and his hands began to tremble. Finally, he looked up, eyes glistening. "Do you know what it felt like, Dad?" Tund's voice cracked, anger and pain spilling out. To be 18, alone, with nowhere to go? To struggle, to starve, to fight for every scrap, all because my own father turned his back on me? Patrick's eyes filled with tears. "I was wrong, Tund. I thought I was teaching you discipline, but I only pushed you away. Please, forgive me." Tund's face was a storm of emotions. "I built myself up from nothing," he said bitterly. "Everything I am today, I did without you." "I know," Patrick whispered. "And I'm proud of you. So proud." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then Tund turned abruptly and walked out, leaving Patrick clutching the empty envelope. That evening, Patrick returned home broken. Evelyn listened quietly as he poured out his heart. "Maybe he'll never forgive me," Patrick said, his voice hollow. Evelyn cupped his face gently. "You can't undo the past, Patrick. But you can show him who you are now. Keep loving him, even if he doesn't love you back." Weeks passed. Tund remained distant, but small cracks began to appear in his icy exterior. Sometimes, when Patrick spoke, Tund would pause as if listening, then quickly shut down again. One rainy evening, Patrick stayed late to finish reports. As he left, he saw Tund sitting alone in his office, head in his hands. "Are you okay, son?" Patrick asked softly. For the first time, Tund didn't correct him. After a long silence, Tund whispered, "I got a call today. The investor I've been negotiating with, they backed out. If we don't find another partner, the branch could close." Patrick sat beside him. "We'll fix it. Together." Tund looked at him, vulnerability flickering in his eyes. "Why are you helping me after everything?" Patrick's voice trembled. "Because no matter what happened, you are my son. Nothing will ever change that." For a moment, Tund's facade cracked completely. Tears filled his eyes, and he whispered, "I wanted to hate you forever, Dad. But I can't." Patrick embraced him, both men weeping. In the weeks that followed, father and son worked side by side to save the branch. Their bond slowly mended, forged anew through shared struggle. On the day the branch was declared safe, Tund turned to Patrick with a small, genuine smile. "You know," he said softly, "when you told me I was dead to you, I believed it. But now, I think maybe that boy I used to be really did die. And this is who I am now." Patrick nodded, tears streaming down his face. "Then let me meet him properly." "Hello, my son." Tund smiled faintly. "Hello, Dad." Words spoken in anger can destroy relationships, but humility and persistence can rebuild them. Family bonds, though fragile, can endure even the deepest wounds if both sides are willing to forgive.